You're listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast with registered patent attorney, Dr. Adam Diamond, founder of Diamond Patent Law, the #1 source for securing your intellectual property needs. Now, here's your host, Adam Diamond.
Hello and welcome to the Patenting for Inventors podcast, episode 46, How to Respond to a Novelty or Anticipation Patent Application Rejection. My name is Dr. Adam Diamond, a registered patent attorney and founder and owner of Diamond Patent Law in Los Angeles, California. I can be contacted through my website at diamondpatentlaw.com, that's D-I-A-M-E-N-T, patentlaw.com, or if it's too hard to remember, you can get to it through patentingforinventors.com, that's patentingforinventors.com, or call me at 424-281-0162. And while most attorneys can only practice in states where they are members of that state's bar, patent attorneys are actually allowed to practice patent law in any state, so feel free to contact me regardless of where you live. So far, I've covered generally what a patent rejection is, what an objection is, what an office action looks like, which is the official document that a patent examiner will send to you. And in the last episode, I talked about the general formatting of what's called the response to the office action. In this episode, I'm going to go into a little more detail about responding to a certain kind of patent rejection called a Section 102, or lack of novelty or anticipation rejection. The word anticipation has a different meaning in patent law than it does in ordinary language. When you think of anticipating something, you usually think about wanting something to happen really soon, but that's not what it means in the patent world. Anticipation means that what you're claiming your invention is already exists. Now, I talked about this in a previous episode, but I thought I'd dedicate a specific episode for this type of rejection. Let me give you an example. If I say that my invention is a mechanical pencil having a long cylindrical body, an eraser, a button on the side to make the pencil lead come out, and a hole at the tip of one end of the long cylindrical body, and the examiner finds a mechanical pencil that has all these things, you will get an anticipation rejection. The examiner will usually say that under Section 35 U.S.C. 102, your claim lacks novelty because it is anticipated by Patent X. And Patent X is going to be some patent number that the examiner believes is something that shows all these features. It doesn't have to be a patent. It could be a patent application. It could be something on Amazon, anything the examiner can find that's in the public. The examiner is going to go limitation by limitation. And what a limitation is, essentially, is each individual part in your claim. So the examiner might say something like, Patent X discloses a long cylindrical body in paragraph 1, and in figure 1, reference number 5. And the reference number will just be the number that points to the part that is in your claim. The eraser is shown in Patent X in paragraph 15 and shown in figure 2, reference number 10. And a button on the side of the cylinder is disclosed in paragraph 20 and in figure 3. And a hole at the tip is disclosed in paragraph 25. I'm just giving you an example of what it might look like, just kind of making up paragraph numbers and figure numbers. So what you do first is you find the patent that the examiner is referring to, and you get it at the patent office website or somewhere else, and read that patent and see if what the examiner is saying is true. Is it really true that the patent that the examiner cites really does disclose all these things? You might be surprised to find out that the patent doesn't actually say what the examiner says it says. So I'm going to go through a couple scenarios. One is that the patent doesn't actually disclose what the examiner says it says, and the other is that the patent does disclose what the examiner says it discloses. Let's take the first scenario. Let's say you read the patent and you look at the button that clicks to make lead come out. In your claim, let's say you said that the button was on the side of the long cylindrical body. But you read the patent that the examiner cited, and the button is at the end of the pencil, not on the side. Does the prior art disclose each and every element that you claimed? No, it doesn't. Now you might be thinking, who cares? A button on the side is just the same as a button on the tip. And you might be right. Putting the button at the end tip is just a simple design choice, and it really isn't important. But that's not the rejection that the examiner gave you. If the examiner wanted to reject your application because your invention was obvious, he could have done that, and that's called the Section 103 rejection. But in our example, he rejected based on Section 102, which is anticipation. Anticipation, again, means that each and every limitation is found in one prior art reference exactly as you have it written. Now, it's possible, and also likely, that when you successfully argue to the examiner that the prior art doesn't anticipate your claim, then the examiner will just come right back and give you another rejection based on obviousness. But we'll deal with obviousness rejections later. The first step is to get rid of the anticipation rejection. So how do we actually respond? The shorter the response, the better. You want to make it clear and concise. I talked about formatting the office action in the last episode. When it comes to the substance part of your response, you're going to want to make a heading that says something like, rejection under 35 USC 102 in view of patent X. You might want to do a line under that says, patent X does not disclose each and every element required by the claims. People have different ways of writing it. That's just one simple way of doing it. Now you'll want to say what the actual rejection was. You might write something like, the office rejected Claim 1 under 35 USC 102 as being anticipated by patent X. Next, you can quote the rule about this. The patent rules that the examiner uses are in something called the MPEP, also known as the Manual for Patent Examining Procedure. So the next sentence might be something like, to reject a claim as anticipated by reference, the disclosure must teach every element required by the claim under its broadest reasonable interpretation, MPEP section 2131. You can also cite cases, but in general, you don't need to go overboard. The examiner probably knows what the rule is, but you can cite a case called Richardson v. Suzuki Motor Company that says the identical invention must be shown in as complete detail as contained in the claim. There's another case called Verdagal Brothers v. Union Oil of California, and it states, the claim is anticipated only if each and every element as set forth in the claim is found, described in a single prior art reference. And there's also another case called Rockwell Intern Corp. Versus US, which says that for anticipation, each and every claim limitation must be found in a single reference. Believe me, you don't need to remind the examiner too much that for a Section 102 rejection, each and every limitation must be found in a single reference, so you might just want to cite the MPEP or a single case. After citing the rule, make your case about why the cited prior art the examiner cited does not disclose each and every element in your claim. And the example I just gave, you can say something like this. On page 3 of the office action, the examiner asserted that patent X teaches a button on the side of the pencil body. However, patent X does not disclose a button on the side of the pencil body. As shown in figure 5, or whatever figure shows the button in the patent, patent X only discloses the button at the end of the pencil. Applicant respectfully submits the prior art does not disclose or teach each and every element to the satisfaction of the MPEP, and accordingly, it's respectfully submitted that the rejection is withdrawn. That will be a type of bare bones response. You have a concluding paragraph that I talked about in the last episode, and you submit your response through the Patent Office website. Now, as I said, even if you're right in this case, it doesn't mean the examiner is going to allow your patent. He might now give an obviousness rejection. He might also find a different patent out there that has all the limitations of your claim. But you generally can only respond to the rejection that's been given to. You might also want to say, in that case, you could say, no prior art reference has all of these features, and then let the examiner prove you wrong. So that's how you might answer a novelty or anticipation rejection if a single prior art reference doesn't show each and every limitation. But let's do the other scenario now. You look at the patent X, and sure enough, the patent discloses a long cylindrical body, an eraser, a button on the side, and a hole at the tip for lead to come out. So now what do? Remember in the previous episode, I talked about the 3 things you can do with a rejection, the 3 A's, which are amend, argue, or abandon. If you don't want to abandon, and there's no use in arguing that the examiner is wrong, then you have to amend. But you can only amend by including in your claims something you already talked about that's in your application. So let's say in your application, you talked about a variation of your pencil that had the same features, but included an additional feature of the pencil, such as maybe a compartment inside that holds whiteout. So besides just an eraser, the pencil user can push a button and whiteout will squirt out from the tip. I know it's just a silly example, but I'm just trying to include something that might not be anywhere in a patent. What you do is you amend the claims to include an additional limitation or two. So the amended claim might say that it comprises a liquid storage compartment within the long cylindrical body. You might consider adding a limitation of a second button or a second hole at the tip of the pencil where liquid can be expelled. It can be really anything. But the more things you include, remember, the narrower your patent protection will be. So unless you need to, don't start adding lots of new limitations. You only want to put as many new limitations or elements into your claim to get you over an anticipation rejection and also make your invention non-obvious over the prior art in combination. So how do we respond to this? You start out with the same heading, rejection under 35 USC 102 in view of patent X. Under that, you might want to do a line that says, as amended, patent X does not disclose each and every element required by the claims. It's always good practice to thank the examiner for the comments, so you can say applicant thanks the examiner for the comments. Applicant has amended claim 1 to now require a liquid storage compartment. Patent X does not disclose a liquid storage compartment and therefore does not anticipate amended claim 1. Applicant requests reconsideration of the claims and withdrawal of the rejection. You can if you want. You can put in the rule about anticipation, but the main focus really is that there's a new limitation that the examiner could reconsider. One practice point that I would suggest is that you don't omit anything. You don't want to say, the examiner is right in that Patent X discloses each and every element, but now I'm amending the claims. Don't say that the examiner is right and that the patent disclosed something, because that can be used against you later. What if in the future you actually discover that the patent used against you really didn't say what you thought it said? You don't want anyone finding something where you admitted that your claims were not new or non-obvious. That's called patent prosecution estoppel, which means that anything in your patent application file can be used against you. Just amend your claim and ask the examiner to reconsider the claim. To protect yourself a little bit, often in a response I'll write something like, applicant disagrees with the examiner's assertion that patent X discloses X, Y, and Z, but to further prosecution and receive a notice of allowance, applicant has amended the claims. Applicant reserves the right to file continuation applications with the original claims. Now, this might not do that much legally because you always have the right to file a continuation application, which I haven't talked about those yet, but at least you could put on the record that you disagreed with the examiner's understanding of the prior art, but you're going to amend the claims anyways. Also, I've talked about amending the claims a lot, but haven't gone into details about how you actually amend your claims. How do you write them to show the patent office what you're actually amending? And I'm going to leave that for a future episode. So that's the bare bones type of anticipation response, which is considerably easier to write compared to an obviousness rejection response, which will take several episodes to go through. Anticipation responses are easier because it's much more black and white. Did the prior art show X, Y, and Z? Yes or no? For obviousness, it's harder because there's lots of subjectiveness on whether it's obvious to combine parts X, Y, and Z from different patents to say that your claim should be rejected on obviousness grounds. And we're going to go into a lot of those scenarios later. Now, if you want help with drafting your patent application, you can contact me through my website at patentingforinventors.com. That's patentingforinventors.com, or call Diamond Patent Law at 424-281-0162. I'm Adam Diamond, and until next time, keep on inventing.
Thanks for listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast with host Adam Diamond. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review on iTunes. The contents of this podcast are intended for general informational purposes only. The facts of every legal matter are unique, and the content of this podcast should not be construed as offering legal advice for your specific legal situation. For more information and help with your own intellectual property needs, contact Adam Diamond at patentingforinventors.com. That's patentingforinventors.com. Or call Diamond Patent Law at 424-281-0162. The preceding information may be considered an attorney advertisement and does not establish any attorney-client relationship.